Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Well, it's Alzheimer's time again, and I hope it isn't affecting your particular family, but it does affect most families, most people, but at least you need to know everything you can about it. So we're very fortunate to have Maggie Garms, Community Outreach Manager, and Karen Gilbert, Vice President of Education and Quality Assurance from the Alzheimer's Community Care, here with us to tell you everything that you need to know, even if you don't think you want to. So I really appreciate you both coming. I know you're very busy trying to put together your conference, but let's start out, Karen, talking about what really, when you say quality assurance, what does that really mean if someone has Alzheimer's?
What that means to our families is that we are continually complying with very high standards. And one of those relates to our adult day centers that are actually licensed under a more strict Florida law because we specialize for patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease or a related neurocognitive disorder such as Lewy body disease. And our entire model of care is incredibly innovative, and we're actually in our 20th year. And so we really have a proven model, and we've helped thousands upon thousands of patients and caregivers over these last 19 years. Every family begins with a family nurse consultant. And that family nurse consultant at first listens, and listens for as long as it takes for that caregiver and the patient, if possible, to convey their concerns, their needs, and so on. That family nurse consultant will then start to help them map out the course of the disease and meet the needs that they may have. They may need referrals for financial assistance, legal advice, health care, and so on. That service is free. And that's one of the incredibly innovative aspects of what we do. No family ever has to be concerned about paying for that family nurse consultant because it is a grant-funded service. Many of our families need a safe place for that patient during the day. Our average caregiver is actually 58 years old and still working. And when they come to realize that their loved one is no longer safe alone all day, our specialized day centers can become incredibly valuable to them.
You know, you're really quite articulate and educated about all of this. And as I know that Maggie knows, I've known Mary Barnes for probably 25 or 30 years because she was this outspoken person. We couldn't keep her sitting down, and she's talking about something like Alzheimer's.
Very
we didn't even know what that was.
Yes.
And now, of course, through her hard work and her pounding the pavement and going to Tallahassee, we now have this magnificent, as you were just describing it, Karen, Alzheimer's Community Care, and how it is different because people who are listening say, well, I take my family member to this or they go there. It's not the same. What you have created is so well thought out and so well done, as you were just describing. So I really applaud you for making people know that if they are, if they do have a family member, they have a friend, or themselves, that there is a place to go because it is so scary. So when someone first brings a family member to you, how do you explain to them that it might be Alzheimer's? Do you first have them first diagnosed with a neurologist? How does this all work?
Well, we have them tell us their experience. What have they discussed with a physician? What type of diagnosis have they been given? And very often what we hear is, well, the doctor said he has dementia. Dementia is not a diagnosis. It's actually a symptom. And so we help that family navigate to neurology and or neuropsychology where they can really get to that quality diagnosis. Does that neurologist or neuropsychologist believe that it is a problem of the Alzheimer's type? If so, how progressed is it? Is there a clinical trial that may help this patient and slow the progression? And in South Florida, we have so many clinical trial locations to take advantage of, very, very near to home. And if they already have that quality diagnosis, as we call it, that the physician really has narrowed this down to potentially Lewy body disease or Alzheimer's or a combination, we can then have a sense of where they are in the course of the disease, and then we help that family to plan how they will intervene and actually challenge this loved one in order to maintain their abilities for as long as possible. And what I mean by challenge is, in our day centers, we are constantly engaging that patient in therapeutic activity. We're not watching television. We are engaged in current events, and of course current events that those patients remember better, which actually might be current events from 30 years ago. All types of trivia. We do word contests, math games, and so on. We do a lot of physical activity. We have live music and dancing. And
which
again,
they love so much.
And the music that they choose from the era that they best relate to. And so we're challenging them cognitively, and we're challenging them physically. And we know anecdotally that their decline is slowed because of the number of years they're engaged with us in our day center, and more importantly, continuing to live at home with their families.
Well, Karen, it's really important that you have this kind of an outreach. But the thing that most people aren't aware of, and we want to do that, is to have Maggie Garms tell us about this incredible educational conference that's coming up. I mean, I attended last year, and I just came away in disbelief, Maggie, what you've put together there.
Lot.
Why don't you share this with people, please?
Well, this is our 19th annual educational conference. So we've been doing this for 19 years, which is amazing. The organization's in its 20th year. But this is a 2-day event that we have. It's held at the Palm Beach County Convention Center. It's March 17th and 18th. So that's a Thursday and a Friday. And this conference, we've really, I think, kind of outdone ourselves this year. We have fabulous speakers that are going to be coming. One of them is Secretary Verghese from the Department of Elder Affairs, is going to be coming in and speaking on some things going on. And then our keynote speaker is Dr. Kenneth Kosick, and he's from the University of California, Santa Barbara. He has a book out right now and has done some really, really interesting research and studies on Alzheimer's. He's going to be speaking on Friday afternoon as our keynote speaker. We have a total of 24 breakout sessions. So how we kind of structure our conference is you can choose, we do the breakout sessions in the morning and the afternoon, and then in between there we have the plenary sessions, which are in our grand ballroom. Those are about 500 people, and there are 450 to 500 people in there. And that's, what the general sessions are. So that's where we have our big speakers, and then you can have a choice between 24 different breakouts.
Which will be a tough choice this year.
It will be.
With all the physicians and their different specialties, and elder law attorneys, with their important information on planning and experts in long-term care options. It will be a tough choice.
Yes.
Okay, so what we want people to do, you need to sign up because it gets pretty full and you don't want to miss this. So and also for those of you who are medical professionals, you want your CEUs, your CMEs,
Yep.
They also will be doing that. So, this is a great day. You're going to learn everything and you're going to be able to get certified. But let's just give you a way. What would be the way for them to get in touch, the easiest way?
So what they can do, they can go to our website and register,
let them do that,
which is www.alzcare.org, and they'll click on the educational conference on there. It's a link on our website, and they can register for professional, caregiver, whatever they want on our website there. They can also call our offices to register as well, and that number is 561-683-7600.
That's the fax number.
Oh, sorry, that's the fax number.
We don't want you faxing in. Okay, the number that I have is 683-2700.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay,
They're so similar.
561-683-2700 for more information. Now, one thing that I love to do on my show is I like people to donate. With all these terrific people that you hear on our show, there is a way that everyone has to get, they have to get paid to do what they do. We have to support all sorts of things that happen here to make this free besides the grants that come in. And so just like we've had people here who are other kinds of charities, but this is something you see the results. You know, a lot of charities are so big that when you donate, it goes into a big pool. But that's not true here, because if you have a loved one or you have someone you know and they're experiencing everything that Karen said, that's what makes it free, your donation. So please be sure to call 683-2700. Talk about a donation. You may want to put it in your will. But the most important thing is please attend the educational conference. It's a rare thing. It's the only one in South Florida that I know. And with your kinds of expertise there, and it is a lovely lunch on that Friday.
We have a wonderful exhibit
Both
hall
days,
too.
actually.
Both days,
yes.
Beautiful lunches.
I missed that one day.
Sit-down breakfast on Friday.
Yeah.
Our first session begins at 9 with a beautifully presented sit-down breakfast.
And we didn't tell people this is at the Palm Beach County
It's at the Palm
Convention
Beach County
Center.
Convention Center, and we also have a large exhibit hall. So we have, 50 to 60 exhibitors that are in there, and they're anywhere from, elder attorneys, long-term care insurance, assisted living facilities, memory care. It's just a great resource.
Yeah, it
the
really
entire
is.
conference as a whole is a great resource. This year, the theme is Pathways, Navigating Your Way. And the idea of that is that wherever you are in your kind of walk or journey with Alzheimer's, you can find it at that conference.
And that's what Karen, I think, was kind of helping us with too, Maggie. Karen, what is your background? You're so enthusiastic and so knowledgeable. How did you get involved in this?
I am a registered nurse, and I've been one for quite some time. And I do have a special interest, not only in the wonderful population of families that we help, but in really making a difference in how care is provided for patients with Alzheimer's, and also in this notion that we can impact their ability to slow the decline and remain at home with their families.
That's the most important thing, isn't it?
And to me, this innovative model is, after doing so many different things in a 40-year career, it is just so exciting to see families that are so thrilled to be able to stay together. Remember, that family nurse consultant is supporting that caregiver, and that's equally as important. We have to take care of the caregiver and the patient so that they can both succeed in remaining safely in the community. And it's just incredibly exciting to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And I remember when Mary Barnes, of course, who founded this organization, we used to talk about so many people when they thought that they didn't even know what their family member had, they'd hide them in their house and people wouldn't come and see them. And it was like of course, cancer had the C word.
Yes.
Years ago, it was the same thing. But now that it's out and there's help, and last time we had Dottie Carson, who was an early, Alzheimer's, person, and hopefully she's going gung-ho to find out everything she can about
Dottie
it.
was at our conference last year.
Yeah, she was, and she's the one that spoke. So, I applaud, yay, that Mary has finally figured out how to get the best people, on her ship, and you're sailing along. And let's talk about some advice, Karen, about people. So if you have, why don't we go through some of the beginning stages, someone who you think is just quite doing what they used to do. Why don't you go to the beginning of that?
Very interesting that you mentioned that. Right now, it is generally accepted that most patients are diagnosed in the middle stage of the disease.
And that's because?
Well, there are a lot of factors at play early in the disease. For one thing, patients are very good at compensating for those memory lapses, and the family may not notice because they have compensated in different ways. Another is, certainly understandable that there can be denial at work as well. The diagnosis of Alzheimer's or a related disorder really presents an incredible shakeup in those family dynamics. A spouse who now becomes caregiver instead of wife or husband or daughter or son. And that's a very difficult transition. And so there may be this tendency to think, well, mom's just a little forgetful, versus there may actually be something physiological.
Something's changed here. This is
going on. And that's a shame, because the best chance to actually have some impact medically or perhaps with a lot of the clinical trials is in that early stage. Like any disease, the earlier you intercede, the more likely you will be successful for a longer period of time.
And I'm going to jump in here because I know that, as a gerontologist, I've been dealing with a lot of people who have talked to me about this. And one thing that has come up, and I remember the time that someone's spouse had a lot of Alzheimer's, and yet the person did want to have sex with their partner. And that was a very big discussion. I think we had a panel discussion on this. Is it right? What can you do? And I think the outcome was if the person who has Alzheimer's is not afraid and they're looking for it, then it's okay.
Right.
But it's when, they have fear, then you have to really respect that. And then I think in this panel discussion, there was a man who loved his wife, but she really now was living in a facility, and he wanted to know if he could have a girlfriend, if he could go out. And so, there are a lot of social issues with this.
There are huge social impacts. And, one of the things we know is that no two families have the same exact needs and the same exact issues. And so our family nurse consultant is always meeting with these families with a completely open mind. There is no one recipe. There is no cookie cutter solution. That's why I say we start by listening. We have to hear the issues, the dynamics that are occurring in that family so we can best help guide them.
And so in your checking around, of course, you have to find people who are doing the clinical trials because, as you said, and I don't know, I know that Dr. Watson is doing that very well, but are there a lot of clinical trials going on here in South Florida?
There actually are, and another clinical trial investigator, Dr. James Goldenberg, will be speaking at the conference as well. And he's with GEM Research, based at the JFK Medical Center campus in Lake Worth. And we have Premier Research in West Palm Beach, and we have Scripps, and we have Max Planck. We just have really a wealth of clinical investigation going on right here in Palm Beach County. And again, we can never be certain as to what particular approach, because they all have different approaches. They're all targeting different diseases and different stages. But what we educate the family to advocate for themselves, to find out, is it appropriate for my husband to be in your clinical trial? Is there a chance he will benefit? So we help them with the questions to ask to take advantage of some of these avenues that may be available to them.
And so how is the National Congress handling this? I mean, I always say, just like when President Reagan, we found out that he had Alzheimer's, all of a sudden it became out there. We didn't know at first, but then when we found out, because his wife knew, but then we found out. I always say that, and I don't wish it on them, but every congressperson, any congressman, woman, ought to have one person with Alzheimer's in their family. And you would see where the funding would come so fast.
Well, we do see that here within the state of Florida. We take an advocacy trip to Tallahassee every year. I've been on the trip, and I met with many senators and representatives who actually said, I have a story to tell. And I will tell you, a number of them in tears. So they have been touched by the disease. They are, although we are present in 3 counties, Palm Beach, Martin, and St. Lucie, we are known throughout the state and very well recognized for this model. And it's our hope that we can inspire other communities to learn it. We would certainly help them to be able to provide a similar service in their communities. The quality of life for a patient and a caregiver who can remain together, the quality of life for a patient who is challenged and does maintain their abilities for a longer period of time, physical abilities and cognitive abilities. You can't put a price on that. And so that's the contribution we're really hoping to make. And the federal government apparently believes in that as well. We were the recipients of one of only 11 national grants, federal grants, permitting us to expand these services and to teach others. So we're really thrilled about that.
That's excellent. That's absolutely excellent. I'm so glad to hear about that. I want to go back to the 2016 Alzheimer's Education Conference. It's very, very important. It's going to be March the 17th and the 18th. It's called Pathways, Navigating Your Way. And it's at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, which is in West Palm Beach. It's a beautiful place. There'll be all sorts of people there, great speakers. There'll be a lot of companies having exhibits. So if you're one of the people who absolutely, if you're concerned, let's say you don't even have anyone who's involved with Alzheimer's, but you want to educate yourself, this is what you should do. We should have the senior center staff go there, because you may just see, after you attend this with all the breakouts, you may learn something, and you may see people who have even the mildest Alzheimer's that maybe you can help.
Well, and catch earlier. Yes.
Absolutely. And, it's one of the biggest things, I think that's the biggest struggle, is that, as a caregiver, the stress that you take in, and you have to accept your loved one in a completely different light that you've known them, your whole relationship. And so we focus on the caregivers here too, and we want to give them the tools to help identify and cope with what they're going through.
In fact, you're so right, because I was impressed that you have anyone that has someone who has Alzheimer's, you have a place that they can still come, and you're still going to have that.
The respite room.
We have a respite room. We have a respite room.
Brilliant.
We have a respite room on site. And so if you are a caregiver that doesn't already use our services and you need a place to leave your loved one while you go to the conference, yes, you can make reservations for the respite room.
I love
for both
about your
days.
organization.
Yes.
There's nothing that you see. You're so deep in this. You understand. Those are things that a lot of people would not know. And the other thing is, we have a lot of home health agencies, and we have various people who are caring for people with Alzheimer's, but they really don't have the education. I mean, they have the heart. They like people, but it's really an education, as Karen was saying. You need to know what to really do to help this person. It isn't just giving them a kiss and having them sit down and watch television.
That's right, and that does nothing to challenge them to retain their abilities. What's also interesting about the conference is out of our almost 500 people a day attending last year, about 60% were family caregivers, 40% professional caregivers, physicians, nurses, social workers, dietitians, dental hygienists, physical therapists, occupational therapists. So what's wonderful is all these attendees, professional and family caregivers, are going through the conference together, and you get that feeling that we all have to link together to make this happen. There will be a heavy law enforcement presence this year at our conference, because law enforcement is very passionate about the new Lost on Foot Silver Alert that Alzheimer's Community Care led the task force to develop. And this is to protect our loved ones with Alzheimer's or related disorder who will wander from a supervised setting at some point in the course of the disease. 60 to 70% of them, according to the International Association of Chiefs of Police, will wander away from supervision. And of course, that's a very dangerous scenario. Bodies of water, traffic, exposure to heat. And so law enforcement has been passionate about protecting these people and helping families to identify that risk of wandering, to help facilities understand the risk in their residents and minimize the number who go missing, but then also find them much faster. So law enforcement will actually be presenting one of our plenary sessions.
That's on Friday.
Just on that Friday lunch. How are we joining with the community to protect our most vulnerable citizens?
I have to applaud Mary about this, because I remember early on when people with Alzheimer's were being picked up and being mistreated because no one knew what they had. Right. They seemed like they were just crazy, and they would say, nasty things because that was part of the disease. And Mary was so upset about this, and she started going to all the law enforcement organizations and try to teach them about this, because what you just said, it's like that's a fait accompli. No, it wasn't. This is something that took someone
but it's education and it's knowledge, and unless you're out doing that and helping people understand, how would you know?
We teach law enforcement on a regular basis. Right. We are regular on their schedule for crisis intervention training, and that's a wonderful partnership. So we want the community to understand that law enforcement is really joining in this effort with healthcare professionals and with families. I think it's important to note as well that our annual conference is not a fundraising event for us. It truly is devoted just to the education. It's a huge production, but we really want people to have solid takeaways, real tools that they can use in advocating for the care of their loved one and themselves, whether they be a family caregiver or a professional caregiver.
But I can advocate. See,
Yes, you can.
I can say you have to donate because I
Yes,
know
you
how important
can.
it is. Right, you don't have to, but I'll do it for you. The other thing is there are all sorts of gadgets with people with Alzheimer's, whether, the little bracelets. But talk to us.
We provide, and again, this ties in with the Lost on Foot Silver Alert now. We provide one of the devices. It's called an ID locator bracelet. It works on the LoJack principle. It's actually a product called Safety Net by LoJack. And we provide that at no charge to families.
What is it? What does it do?
It's actually a bracelet with a radio frequency. If they wear it 24/7. And if they are to go missing and that caregiver immediately calls 911 and reports the frequency of their bracelet, law enforcement is immediately dispatched with special antenna, and they can locate that person even from a helicopter very, very quickly. Yeah. And because time is not on our side when someone goes missing because of the risks in our community, this is extremely beneficial. Again, we provide the device at no charge. It's, again, a grant-funded program we have. We currently have, I believe, 106 in use. People who are apt to wander don't necessarily do it for years and years and years. It's generally a 2-year or so period during the course of the disease that they have this risk. And so it's a sustainable device. They can be recycled, so to speak. We change the bands every month and of course with a new patient using it. But with our first 75 bracelets, we actually served almost 200 families. So it's a wonderful, wonderful way to protect your loved one.
Well, let me just thank Maggie Garms, the Community Outreach Manager, and Karen Gilbert, the Vice President of Education and Quality Assurance of Alzheimer's Community Care. I just have to thank you all so much. And remember, if you want any more information about the conference, it's 561-683-2700. Or you can go to their website, which is, alzcare.org.
Yes.
alzcare.org. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much,
Thank you for
Anita.
this opportunity. Thank you so much.